On a humid Georgia evening, a sleek midnight blue sedan cruised along County Road 17, its owner unwinding to the mellow strains of Otis Redding. Behind the wheel sat Jonathan Reed, 68, a silver-haired former state attorney general returning home after a quiet weekend with family. He'd driven these winding pine-lined roads countless times, never once had he been in a hurry. But tonight, something felt off. As he passed a cluster of oaks, Deputy Mark Harlow's cruiser emerged from the shadows, siren off. Harlow's partner, rookie Alex Summers, sat tense in the passenger seat. Even Alex's fresh-pressed uniform couldn't mask his unease. Jonathan eased onto the gravel shoulder as Harlow barked over the patrol car's mic, "Pull over now." The deputy stomped from his cruiser, belt jangling, and approached Jonathan's window. "License and registration," Harlow snapped. Calmly, Jonathan complied, handing over his documents with a steady hand. Harlow eyed first the out-of-state plates, then Jonathan's distinguished name. "What are you doing out here, Mr. Reed?" he demanded. "Just heading home," Jonathan replied evenly. "Visiting my grandkids." Harlow's lips curled in contempt. "Carjackings, drug runners, lots of trouble on this stretch. Step out of the vehicle." When Jonathan asked for legal grounds, Harlow merely snarled, "Don't argue." With deliberate grace, Jonathan opened the door and stood, taller, broader, composed. Yet Harlow's frustration simmered. "Open your trunk." Jonathan appealed to the Constitution. Harlow waved him silent. Rookie Alex shifted uncomfortably, ready to intervene but unsure how. Suddenly, Harlow's fist shot out, crack, as he struck Jonathan across the jaw. Blood welled at the older man's lip. Spectators in distant cars fumbled for their phones. Jonathan's eyes, cool with indignation, met Harlow's furious glare. "You'll regret that," Jonathan said softly. Harlow's chest swelled with false triumph. He returned Jonathan's ID to the seat, barked, "Back in your car," and strutted away. Jonathan slid back behind the wheel, the throb in his jaw mirroring his resolve. This stop would be remembered for far more than a signal violation. Deputy Alex Summers sat frozen in the patrol car, heart pounding, as Harlow strutted back to his cruiser. The fluorescent glow of the street lamp illuminated Jonathan Reed's stoic figure in the driver's seat, blood trickling from his lip, hands gripping the steering wheel. For a rookie, that image was more unsettling than any barred door or barking suspect he'd ever faced. As Harlow climbed into the passenger seat, Alex's conscience screamed. He knew the rules: body cam on, respect the citizen, probable cause for any search. None of that had happened. Before he could consider speaking, Harlow slammed the door and ordered, "Let's move on." Code 3. Alex's eyes flicked to the dash cam, dark, inactive. Harlow must have disabled it. Back at the precinct under thick morning fog, Harlow swaggered to his desk, knuckles still stinging. Coffee mugs clinked around him. No one asked about last night's routine stop, that's how he liked it. But Alex felt a pit of guilt. A radio dispatch crackled, "Unit 14, Chief's office." Now. Harlow scowled. No one called him to headquarters except the chief. They said Chief Wallace retired, interim director Marianne Cho had taken over. Harlow shot Alex a warning glance, "Stay here." Alex obeyed, but his hands shook. Minutes later, Harlow emerged alone. His face was pale, jaw tight. "You heard," he muttered. Alex hesitated, should he ask? Instead, he sat, replaying the scene, Harlow's fist connecting, Jonathan's unflinching stare. At 0900, Alex was summoned to Cho's office. He stepped into the glass-walled room, heart thundering. Seated behind the desk was a tall woman in a dark suit, Interim Director Cho. Beside her stood Jonathan Reed himself. Alex blinked, stunned. The man he'd watched bleed was now his boss. Director Cho spoke first. "Deputy Harlow assaulted Mr. Reed last night without cause. You, Corporal Summers, witnessed it. We need your full account." She slid forward a notepad. Alex swallowed, voice trembling, but he told every detail: the disabled cam, the planted search, Harlow's aggression. Reed nodded once, expression grave but appreciative. Cho turned to Reed. "What would you like to do?" Reed's calm authority filled the room. "I expect a full suspension for Harlow and an immediate investigation of this stop. I will file a civil suit, if necessary, to hold this department accountable." Cho's eyes flickered. She had expected this. "Deputy Harlow will be on administrative leave. We'll open internal affairs inquiry and inform the district attorney. Corporal Summers, you'll draft your statement, then return to patrol. Stay honest, we protect whistleblowers." Alex blinked in relief. He nodded, resolved. Reed patted his hand on the table. "Thank you. Integrity matters." Harlow was led away in stunned silence. Word spread quickly: the former state attorney general, now interim director's ally, had stepped in. The precinct buzzed with whispers. Cameras caught Alex's weary face as he passed. He realized the weight of his choice. He'd done right. Outside, news vans gathered. "Officer suspended for assaulting lawyer," the headline blared. And Jonathan Reed, standing calm in the rain, vowed, "No corrupt badge will hide behind the law." Rookie Alex Summers drove past, windows rolled down, determination in his grip on the wheel. Justice had begun. Following his unprovoked assault, Jonathan Reed wasted no time mobilizing both legal and public pressure. Within days, his attorney filed a civil rights lawsuit against Deputy Mark Harlow and the Southridge County Sheriff's Office for battery, false arrest, and planting evidence. News outlets splashed the headline: "Former AG sues local deputies." Reed's reputation lent instant credibility, and the department responded with disciplined swiftness. Harlow was on unpaid suspension, and Internal Affairs launched a thorough probe. Rookie Alex Summers stood firm alongside Lieutenant Maria Torres, who'd taken over Internal Affairs. Reports began streaming in, dashcam logs showing suspicious shutdowns, archived stop records revealing Harlow's pattern of targeting out-of-state plates, and complaints from citizens previously dismissed. Each discovery deepened the scandal. Torres, known for her unwavering ethics, coordinated interviews with witnesses: a church pastor who'd driven by and recorded the stop, a school bus driver who saw Harlow's discarded body cam in the mud, even the mechanic who inspected Jonathan's sedan for alleged contraband. Their stories aligned. Public support coalesced quickly. Community leaders, ministers, veterans, retired judges, lined up behind Reed. Candlelight vigils lit the courthouse lawn, social media campaigns under #JusticeForReed amassed thousands of shares. Alex Summers, though still in uniform, volunteered at demonstration points to help with logistics. The young deputy's loyalty to truth outshone his fear of department backlash. Yet Reed's legal team also encountered door-slamming resistance. Sheriff's deputies whispered in back hallways, retired officers called Reed a troublemaker. At night, Reed's mailbox was smashed, replaced with a tattered cardboard sign reading, "Turn in your badge," scrawled in red. A brick crashed through his front window, no cameras captured the attacker, power at the house cut out for exactly 3 minutes. Reed refused to relent. Lieutenant Torres pressed on. She requested state-level oversight. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation opened a parallel inquiry into all stops by Harlow over the past 2 years. Troopers arrived at the precinct to copy records. No one was spared scrutiny. Meanwhile, Harlow's legal defense demanded grand jurors indict Reed for defamation, a move widely derided as retaliation. Inside the sheriff's office, morale cratered. Some deputies left quietly, others trashed complaint files, hoping to bury evidence. Torres noticed suspicious gaps in digital logs, the precise times when cameras were disabled. She flagged them. Deputies who dared speak with her faced subtle threats: car tires slashed, graffiti on home posts, voicemail harassment. Alex Summers found his locker ransacked, his name carved across a wall in black paint. Unbowed, Reed took the fight public, granting interviews on every network he could reach. His message was consistent: we either uphold the law, or we're ruled by fear. Alex, reassigned to desk duty for safety, typed hundreds of emails documenting threats against any who supported Reed. Lieutenant Torres filed those as evidence. By month's end, the lawsuit had grown into an investigation of systemic corruption. County commissioners convened hearings, the sheriff faced calls for resignation. Reed's courage had sparked a movement, Alex's witness had ignited an inquiry, Torres's leadership ensured the flames of justice burned brightly, even as intimidations mounted. Late one Friday night, after a public forum on policing reform, Jonathan Reed drove home along the same winding route where Deputy Mark Harlow had first stopped him. His headlights cut through the thick Georgia mist. Beside him lay a small digital recorder, his new habit, just in case. He felt only a mild fatigue, certain that his security detail was sufficient. He was wrong. As Reed turned onto Oakview Drive, a black SUV lurked in the shadows, engine idling. Before he could react, it shot forward, ramming his sedan's rear quarter. Metal screamed. The wheel spun, and Reed's car careened into the shallow ditch. Airbags deployed. Dazed, Reed tried the door, it wouldn't open. A moment later, 3 masked figures emerged from the assailant's vehicle, baseball bats and crowbars in hand. Reed unfastened his seatbelt, unhurt but shaken. "You forgot your chance to stay quiet," one thug snarled. They yanked open his door. Reed slid out, propping himself against the crushed frame. "I have nothing but the truth," he rasped. A crowbar came down, he flinched, preparing for the worst. Then headlights swept across the scene, Deputy Alex Summers barreled in, blue lights off but with urgency. He leapt from his cruiser, hand on his holstered sidearm. "Back away!" Alex shouted. The attackers hesitated. "Stay back, or I will fire." 2 warning shots cracked into the night air. The bricks of the road vibrated underfoot, the masked men staggered and fled into the surrounding woods. Alex sprinted to Reed's side, checking him for injuries. "Sir, are you okay?" He helped Reed climb into the cruiser's passenger seat. Reed coughed, tasting blood from his lip. "They don't quit," he murmured. Alex radioed for backup and an ambulance. Within minutes, flashing lights cut into darkness as paramedics and Georgia troopers arrived. Lieutenant Maria Torres oversaw the scene. She knelt beside Reed, directing first aid. In the background, uniformed officers fanned out, torches bobbing through the trees. One deputy called in, "We've got footprints and 3 empty vehicles, 1 stolen." Torres noted each detail, eyes flicking between Reed's shaken face and the tree line. Reed, though rattled, refused a hospital trip. "I need to stick to the plan," he said. He extracted the digital recorder from his coat and handed it to Torres. "Every word from that engagement is on here." Torres nodded, already thinking ahead. Media crews arrived at dawn. Cameras rolled as Alex Summers offered a statement. Deputy Summers acted swiftly to protect Mr. Reed from a violent ambush. "We're treating this as an attempted kidnapping and assault." Reporters buzzed, calling it an explosion of violence in a growing culture war. But Reed focused only on the next step. By midday, word spread that Levi Ortiz, one of the suspects, had been arrested at a stolen car chop shop. Arrests followed, 2 more accomplices detained after the stolen SUV was located in a nearby garage. Each arrest strengthened Reed's lawsuit and validated Lieutenant Torres's warnings about orchestrated retaliation. That evening, Reed sat at home, shoulders still tense. The digital recorder lay on his desk. He replayed the thudding strikes before Alex's voice cut through the tape. He realized the ambush wasn't random, it was a calculated attempt to silence him. But instead, it galvanized the movement. The next day, crowds gathered outside the courthouse, candles in hand, chanting, "Justice won't be stopped." Lieutenant Torres delivered an official safety alert to all witnesses. Any retaliation against those cooperating will be prosecuted to the fullest extent. Alex Summers stood guard outside Reed's residence, body cam active, unwavering. In that moment it was clear, even blinded by force, the pursuit of truth could not be derailed. By the time Deputy Mark Harlow's trial commenced, it had become more than a local scandal, it was a test of accountability in Georgia law enforcement. The courtroom buzzed as spectators, neighbors, activists, lawyers, filled every seat. The judge, Honorable Patricia Emery, laid down ground rules: no cell phones, no outbursts. Cameras clicked. Prosecution opened with a measured statement: this case is not about anger, it's about the breach of public trust. They played Harlow's own body cam footage, time stamped exactly when he disabled it, and the crowd murmured at the abrupt black screens. Then came the bystander video of the initial stop, capturing Harlow's fist striking Reed in the jaw. Next, they called rookie Alex Summers to the stand. Dressed in a crisp suit, Alex recounted each moment: Harlow's unwarranted commands, the planted narcotics beneath Reed's driver's seat visible in Alex's own dashcam recording, and the ambush that followed weeks later. He spoke with quiet authority, unwavering even as Harlow's defense attorney tried to impeachment him on minor inconsistencies. Lieutenant Maria Torres then testified on the departmental records, the pattern of complaints against Harlow, logs of camera shutdowns, and the internal memo where Harlow was warned about excessive force. Torres's calm but firm delivery underscored the systematic nature of the abuse. Prosecutors introduced fingerprint analysis: Harlow's prints on the bag of contraband, none belonging to Reed. Jonathan Reed took the stand last. His demeanor was composed, his voice resolute. "I have been a lifelong defender of the law," he began. "That evening, I was violated not by a suspect's resistance, but by an officer's contempt for justice." He detailed every illegal order, every threat under his breath, and the physical and emotional scars he carried. A hush fell as he described the ambush's brutality. The defense labored to recast Harlow as a hero under stress, a decorated deputy misjudging a tense roadside to protect public safety. They portrayed Reed as a litigious power broker seeking revenge. But the jury had already seen too much: 6 counts of wrongdoing, battery, false imprisonment, evidence planting, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to kidnap, and assault with a deadly weapon. In closing, ADA Karen Wu simplified the stakes: we decide today whether an officer, sworn to uphold the law, is allowed to break it with impunity. Defense counsel's plea for leniency rang hollow after the parade of evidence. Jury deliberation took only 3 hours. When they filed back, foreperson Lisa Morgan read the verdict. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty on all 6 counts." A collective exhale swept the courtroom. Harlow's head dropped, his hands trembled in shackles. Sentencing came swiftly. Judge Emery's voice was firm: "Deputy Harlow, your betrayal of public trust demands accountability. I hereby sentence you to 5 years imprisonment, revocation of peace officer certification, and forfeiture of pension." No gavel banged, just the weight of words that sealed his fall. Outside, supporters clapped softly, some wept. Reed offered a nod of solemn respect to Alex and Torres as they exited. "Today, the law prevailed," he said to a throng of reporters. "But vigilance must continue." Lieutenant Torres began organizing department-wide training reforms on the courthouse steps. Alex resolved to mentor new recruits on integrity. For Reed, the victory was bittersweet, a triumph over corruption, but a reminder that justice requires eternal watchfulness. In the wake of Harlow's conviction, Lieutenant Maria Torres obtained authorization from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to conduct a sweeping audit across multiple sheriff's departments. Dubbed Operation Clear Shield, the initiative aimed to uncover whether Harlow's misconduct was an aberration or a symptom of a broader culture. First, Torres subpoenaed years of traffic stop data, dashboard camera logs, use of force reports, and internal complaints. Analysts discovered alarming trends: departments where cameras were installed often recorded 40% fewer stops of minority drivers, unless the system was disabled. Dozens of deputies boasted spotless disciplinary records, yet their body cam footage failed to upload or simply vanished. Next, Torres's team examined 18 months of internal affairs case files. They found 47 complaints involving unprovoked force, nearly all involving black or Hispanic motorists, only 2 reached formal hearings. Many case notes bore identical phrases. Insufficient evidence or citizen uncooperative, suggesting a pattern of dismissal by complicit supervisors. Under cover of night, Torres's investigators served search warrants at precincts. They seized shredded documents rescued from trash compactors, laptops wiped clean of maintenance logs, and external hard drives in lockers. Interviews with veteran deputies revealed an unspoken clique known as the Guardians. Members bragged in private chats about planting faulty citations, teaching respect, and covering one another in disciplinary reviews. One whistleblower, Sergeant Victor Nguyen of neighboring Franklin County, broke years of silence to file a sworn affidavit. "I saw Commander Lane personally edit civilian complaint narratives to remove any mention of bias," he alleged. Nguyen's bravery triggered a domino effect. Another deputy came forward with screenshots of group chat messages mocking constitution-based rights as liberal nonsense. Meanwhile, Jonathan Reed's civil attorneys joined the audit effort, leveraging open record suits to force reluctant agencies to comply. Each new cluster of revelations made headlines: deputies caught destroying evidence, radar gun logs fraud, bias board meeting leaked. Even rural counties felt the tremors. Public outrage intensified. Town halls drew hundreds, crowds demanded transparency. State lawmakers, initially hesitant, launched separate reviews of qualified immunity and civilian oversight statutes. Veteran officers who once turned a blind eye now feared being named in lawsuits. To streamline these reforms, Reed and Torres co-authored a white paper proposing automatic upload of body cam footage within 24 hours, with audits for non-compliance. Independent civilian oversight boards empowered to subpoena officers. Whistleblower protections guaranteeing job security and anonymity. Mandatory bias awareness training every 2 years, with third-party certification. Transparent reporting of disciplinary actions, publicly accessible. As Operation Clear Shield progressed, 3 deputies resigned under investigation, 2 captains were relieved of duty, and 1 sheriff announced his retirement. The Guardians' network fractured. Once untouchable officers now faced grand jury subpoenas. Inside the sheriff's office, morale shifted. New recruits arrived aware that cameras watched every stop. Training emphasized de-escalation and respect. Lieutenant Torres remained vigilant. "We can't let this culture return," she told her team. "Integrity must be our watchword." For many, these reforms marked the strongest challenge to entrenched law enforcement secrecy in decades. The audit laid bare a poisoned orchard, yet, with each uprooted root, Georgia's justice system breathed a little easier. Buoyed by Harlow's conviction and the findings of Operation Clear Shield, Jonathan Reed championed comprehensive legislative reform. He drafted the Brooks Act, which would mandate functional body cam usage and timely public release of footage. Establish citizen review boards with subpoena power in every county. Provide whistleblower protections and grants for officers reporting misconduct. Require annual anti-bias training with independent oversight. Reed toured the State House, holding meetings with legislators in small offices and impromptu hallway conversations. His question was simple: when your grandchildren ask what you did to protect their rights, what will you say? 3 skeptical committee members flipped their stance to support the bill. Yet resistance was fierce. The Police Officers Association held a press conference warning that the Brooks Act would undermine officer safety and flood departments with frivolous lawsuits. In rural counties, sheriffs rallied constituents against what they framed as urban meddling. Threatening calls and anonymous mail warned Reed that change won't come quietly. Undeterred, Reed organized a coalition of ministers, veterans, teachers, and community groups. Candlelight vigils outside the Capitol grew into rallies of hundreds chanting, "Transparency now." Media outlets began featuring victims of profiling, each sharing how bodycam evidence could have made all the difference. Rookie Alex Summers and Lieutenant Torres appeared alongside Reed at televised debates, underscoring that the act had bipartisan support among law-abiding officers. Their presence diffused attacks that the bill was anti-police. As the vote approached, anonymous threats escalated. Reed's daughter's car was keyed, Alex's front tire was slashed, Torres discovered a bullet taped to her office door. Jenkins, coordinating security, had Georgia State Patrol armored vehicles stationed near key supporters' homes. On the Senate floor, Reed delivered his final appeal. He spoke without notes, voice resolute, "This is about more than a single road or a single incident. It's about trust between citizens and those who wear the badge. Our laws must reflect that trust is earned, not assumed." With a narrow 26-24 margin, the Brooks Act passed. Governor Whitaker signed it at sunrise, surrounded by community leaders. Reed, flanked by Summers and Torres, watched on. "Today we turned a page," he said. "Now the work begins." 1 year after passage of the Brooks Act, Georgia's policing landscape had shifted dramatically. Citizen review panels convened monthly in county courthouses, inviting residents to voice concerns. Bodycam footage was routinely released within 48 hours of any use of force incident, streamed on government portals. Whistleblower claims soared, and officers who once stayed silent now stepped forward under Reed's protections. Jonathan Reed crisscrossed the state hosting training sessions for both law enforcement and community groups. In Savannah, he joined Mayor Lewis at a community center, where tech novices learned to access stop data dashboards. In Macon, he spoke to a courtroom packed with high school students, urging them to examine evidence critically, never accepting, "because I said so," as justification. Rookie Alex Summers, promoted to sergeant, led de-escalation workshops in his home county. He displayed footage of respectful citizen interactions. Handcuffing, search procedures, so new officers saw best practices before they rolled onto patrol. His motto, "Respect earns respect." Lieutenant Maria Torres retired from active duty but remained a state consultant, auditing departments and hosting ethics seminars for academy cadets. She founded the Bridge Initiative, providing mental health and peer support resources for officers struggling under the new accountability demands. Even former Deputy Harlow's scandal spurred change. Sheriffs across the region revisited old complaint files, suspicious logs triggered retraining or disciplinary action. In rural precincts, some longtime deputies resisted, others embraced transparency, believing public trust superior to outdated code of silence. Meanwhile, Evelyn Ruiz, the spirited former SIU investigator who joined from Alabama, built a nonprofit offering legal assistance to those caught in questionable stops. Her Shield and Light program partnered with universities to study the Brooks Act's impact, publishing reports on racial disparities that guided policy tweaks. Today, Georgia students learn in civics class about Jonathan Reed's stand, a case study in civic engagement and moral courage. The Brooks Act is cited in other states as a blueprint for reform. At its core, Reed's movement proves that justice grows in daylight. A routine traffic stop on a quiet country road ignited a revolution in policing culture, reminding everyone that the badge grants power, but accountability sustains legitimacy. In Georgia, every citizen now knows, it only takes one voice brave enough to say, "Not this time."